Alrighty. Let's get the lo-fi going. Let me switch up my scene. There we go. Cool. Alrighty, so how's everyone doing? So yeah, we are here. Final day of these streams. Maybe not final, but at least for this week. And yeah, again, make sure you check out DEVEXDAYS24. Use that coupon code and get up to 80% off. Pretty cool. Alrighty, so let me hold on, let me just do one quick thing here. And yeah, just getting set up. So we're going to hop back into more of trying to understand how the file system stuff works. That's going to be me fiddling with it. I didn't reach out to the Discord, but yeah, I can reach out to the XDism Discord. I think that would be useful. Now, who all is over on chat? Let me check that out. So yeah, say hi. Let me know how your Friday is going. It's Friday. Okay. So, yeah, where did we leave off yesterday? Let's double check some of that. I'm centered in the camera. Yes, cool. The shirt doesn't quite fit as well as I would like. Like the collar flips down for some reason, but good enough. So, we're trying to see, yes, it wasn't the file system stuff. It was the host function thing. Oh, that's something I should do. I should do a different tea every day. That could be some like fun content. But yeah, so this is the thing that we were getting as an error. And that error is something we were seeing over in here in the extension host. Right now, it's fine. But previously, and yeah, that's the tricky part there. Here we go. That's not the error that I was expecting. Hold on. There was another one we saw. Here we go. Cannot resolve import. So that's the main thing. Basically, XDism host user notify. not provided by host imports nor linked manifest items. So let me think about where that's happening. And yeah, if you have any questions about what I'm building or how I'm building it, please feel free and ask. That, all of the platforms should work. So that would mean if you ask over on LinkedIn, I should be able to see it at least, and I can respond. Passing links, I will have to have Allison do that for me because of, I'm not seeing that chat right now. But I could probably fire that up and that would be worthwhile. That's not a bad idea. So yeah, I should start popping those chats up like elsewhere. That would be a good idea. Let me at least get, let's see. So Twitter, we also need to do. So let me get to Twitter and hop into that stream. All right, that's muted, but I can chat over there. And let me fire up LinkedIn as well. That way I can share links and various things that I'm working on. Where is it? There we go. Cool. So now I can actually respond over to those platforms as we need. And hey, what's up? How you doing, Crazy? You're a tech student. You need a job. What to learn? You are confused. You're only one here for now. We just started. Depends on what you want to do. My biggest recommendation for people trying to get a job and wondering what to learn is to look at what the jobs in your area are hiring for. Especially if you're a student and you're beginning your career, you probably don't want to focus on fully remote jobs yet. I think there is value to juniors being in an office environment where they can understand the processes and where it's easier to understand the work cadence. Learning that while learning the job flow and learning how to be a dev at the same time is tough. So I personally recommend juniors to go into the office. So you need to look at what jobs around you are actually using. And that would probably teach you what languages you need to learn. In many of the cases, there is no 100% right answer. So you're going to have to hone that skill of deciding for yourself. All right, so, okay, hold on. I don't need this install.js or install.sh. Yeah, no worries. I actually saw the comment. I have missed them from time to time, so no worries at all. So maybe this is something I want to look at. The index.d.ts file here. What types are we trying to define for that? And maybe that's where I want to look in node modules here and see what they're kind of exposing for us. All right, so polyfills might be part of it. Plugin interface. Okay, so they're defining some extra types. We should be able to use string though. So I don't see why that would be an issue. But we did get an issue when trying to compile it. So let me just try this again. We're gonna do this part. We got notify instead of pointer. This is message, and this is string. it can return a pointer just fine. And pointer is just an I-64. So a number or big N. Okay. So we do this. What I want to try next is recompiling that. And this is where they complain about unsupported param type, TS keyword type. And they don't like the TS string keyword. So let's look that up. Xdism host function, param type. Example. So yes, they tell us what host functions actually are. They're going to create this function called memory get. This is just a JS file, so we don't get the types here, but that should be okay. So this is a function that's going to be callable by the Wasm plugin that we're making. Oh, and they do a new host function. Ah. That is maybe what I'm messing up. So hold on. Where is host functions actually passed? I'm not sure this is actually the right way to do this. This might be older. When was this written? So this is over a year old. Yeah, this might be an old API. I think they have a different way of defining the host functions. Yeah. Well, let's look at the other part. So modifying the Wasm plugin, they are doing this in what looks like Rust code. Okay. And that's a little tougher because their example code for how host functions work is also Rust code. It's not quite ideal. Oh, so we can't just send a string. We have to actually send memory or like encoded data. Ooh. Now keep in mind, this is still a little older, so it might not be correct anymore. Let me double check their documentation for host functions just to be sure. So a host function is comprised of these things. And this is pseudocode at the moment. Okay. So we might have to just do the pointer thing. Okay, so this just has to be pointer. So if that's the case, then in our other code, we're defining that wrong. So that would be over here in getLens. This function right here. It takes in the current plugin and a message. I don't think that's actually accurate though. So what if we go back to here? They don't really expose a host function to us, do they? Let's go look at what they're actually exposing. So we see plugin, manifest, create plugin. Let's go to the definition of manifest. See manifest like, and this is where manifest gets defined. So then when we look at that, so it's not the manifest that we care about. No, this is plugin options. So we head back. XDism plugin options, logger, functions. See, I wish they explained what the inputs are and why, like how we have to translate this. Yeah, I think that's a big thing. They need better examples of this stuff. If we go look at their docs, though, and we look at the SDK, we see the section for host plugins, host functions. And here they're doing some key value store stuff. So the first argument is always current plugin. And we have to read the offset and convert it to text. Aha. Okay. So that makes more sense. So that's why this is a pointer. Okay. So then if we go to the getLens code here, this is no longer a string. This is big int. So then const message is equal to current plugin dot, and this is where we need to do a read of message dot text, which is a function. We can't shadow that. So this is maybe raw message. And we'll just do like some default value, literally. Some default value. Okay. Object is possibly null, and my machine is running quite slow. I think we're actually good though. All right. So now that we have this function defined, this type should actually be good too. So that should actually compile again. Okay, so we verified that that does actually compile properly, but the way we're calling this is not going to be correct. So we're trying to do this notify function, and that comes from here. But will it blend? That is not the right thing. So I guess the big part is, how do I create the memory offset in the same way? And that might have to be something that we just do as like, let's comment that for now. Host dot, host dot invoke function notify Let's look at their code again. So invoke function takes an ID, and then the arguments we want to pass to it. So if we look at the PDK here real quick, that all is fine there. Yeah, that's not what we were looking for. Host functions. So here, yeah, we see pointer I64, which is also just pointer. We see my host function here. And that's it. Okay, so we need to bring in memory from string like this. So I don't think invoke function is what we want. Will it blend? I don't like the short variable names. It's not like it matters, but I like the readability. And then this is, yeah, we'll call that mem still. And the function is brought in, so then we would just do mem.offset. Okay. Okay. So they do have good examples. It's just they're in a lot of like different places. We could even send objects over, which is interesting. Oh, this is an interesting limitation. Host functions in the JS BDK can only have up to 5 arguments. That is very interesting. I think it's fine. So we've done that. Let's actually recompile again. And then here we want to restart the extension. Oh, I had the wrong thing open. All right, so this reloaded and we get this error again. So xdism host notify not provided by host imports nor linked manifest items. Okay, so hold on. We do this as interface user. Where's the thing that's consuming it? Like this is just where we define it here. But then in, hold on. Yeah. In the JS SDK, that's it. I need to do the /user. That was totally it. That was totally it. Okay, so now, will it blend? Not quite. And so it begins. Fall here in Washington at this apartment complex. They even do leaf blowing on rainy days. At least they aren't doing it at like 7 a.m. like they used to. Could be worse. So So here's the thing. This seems like it should be working, right? Because we are at xdism:/host/user. We get this notify function. We got it there. Why is this still failing then? So it's basically, and yeah, quick question: is the leaf blower actually like coming through on the audio? Can you guys hear that, or is it at least being like noise suppressed a bit? So this error, that is coming from the SDK, right? So if we search for that, maybe in the SDK source code, that might tell us a little bit more. That was not what I was looking for. Okay. So in the foreground plugin, oh, and also maybe in our tests, yeah, or not our tests, but in their tests. Double check this. Cannot resolve import blank with a space between it and then blank. And if we look at how they're creating that function, or not creating the function, creating that string, yep, that's where the space would be. Oh, but you know what? Okay, so here's the big thing. This module isn't even there. So it's not finding the module itself. That's what I think I'm trying to understand from this. So this part right here just doesn't seem to work. Like maybe I just have the wrong key. And maybe it has to be defined as an arrow function. That would be strange, but not too crazy. See, it's already inferring that that's the actual type, though. So that might not be the problem. Oh, and this is another way they do this part. So instead of doing the current plugin, oh no, okay, yeah, call context is the current plugin. They're doing a read. Got it. What would be the difference between text and string here? Right, like we're not even calling this. So that's not the issue. It's the lookup here. So xdism :host /user notify. So we can keep defining this. What I think they're telling me is that the function we have defined is not over in our plugin code. And yeah, Allison, if you're out there, can you hear that leaf blower? It is like right outside my window. So I'm just trying to make sure it's not like really annoying for stream. Or anyone else on stream too. Like, can you guys hear that out my window? So this is one of the errors that we've seen previously, right? So yeah, WASI enabled. I don't remember seeing this error message though, but we definitely needed it. Oh, sorry. Just thinking, what is current in this context? So current is a module they're trying to instantiate. And this is in the SDK. So I thought we had run in worker turned on though. Yeah, we have run in worker turned on. Could that be the issue? Like maybe host functions don't exist in workers? So let me try that. So we'll do that. In our plugin code, we can just do some of this. So we don't need to do that HTTP request because we're testing something different. It was nice for like debugging because if we still saw the call over here, that would help us out a bit. but I think I'm okay with that for now. So then here, let's try and recompile again. And then from here, let's try and rerun this. Oh, will it blend? Okay. Aha. So the main issue is that okay, I don't think I've seen that documented anywhere. I need that in my notes for sure. Basically, host functions can't seem to be unable used when run in worker is set to true in the JS SDK. I may have to close this window. Sorry about the noise. But yeah, okay, so that was an interesting thing to learn. That I think I'm going to double check, but let me double check their docs first. And yeah, that kind of like helped me understand it, like foreground plugin, right? If it's a foreground plugin, that's happening on the thread. What about background plugins? So if we go to source here and look at background plugin, I don't see the function stuff. I don't think function exists is actually what we care about. Okay, I'm gonna close this window. Give me a second, sorry. All right, hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, sorry about that. So, I don't see any of the same like error message stuff that I would kind of expect. And what is this invoke function? Let me get my headphones back in. Now, let me do one thing, actually. I'm going to send this over to their Discord. if I can find where the XDism Discord went. There it is. So JS SDK. Let me do a quick search. Just to be sure. Yeah, let me just ask over there. From my investigation and fiddling, it seems that host functions can only be used when the plugin is not run in worker. Is that correct? Okay, so we'll see if they respond to that. But so far from what I'm looking at in the code, it seems like that's the case. And yeah, their Discord is really like active, like yeah, really awesome. So yeah, XDism, vibrant community. There's always room for more docs stuff that can be done, but pretty cool. Pretty cool. So let's go back to their docs just to be sure that they don't have that somewhere and I just missed it. All right. So Wasm can't use the KV store that they have on its own. This is where host functions come in. They allow us to grant new capabilities to our plugins from our application. There are simply some JS functions in write which can be passed down and invoked from any language inside the plugin. And we notice that run in worker is not set to true, which means it's false by default. So in order to write host functions, we should become familiar with the methods on the current plugin type. So we can go look at that. So, yeah, let's think about this. If that is true, and we're not allowed to do host functions when the plugin is created this way, then we would just want to create like a separate set of plugins. So we'd almost, oh yeah, that makes it trickier. Because if we wanted this to be like user configurable, we'd have to have the user pass us, like, you know, pass GitLens the capabilities that their plugin needs. And that's where we decide if it runs in a worker or if it doesn't, that kind of thing. That makes it tougher. And I think, again, assuming that I'm correct, the type they have for their plugin config should actually yell at us, right? Like if we're trying to set run in worker to true, then functions shouldn't be allowed to be called or like defined. So that way we at least get some type safety and it makes the user experience better, or the developer experience, I should say. Let me go back up to the SDK docs and look at where they're talking about HTTP requests. Ooh, they don't mention it in the SDK. I believe they mention HTTP in the PDK though. Oh, and here we see it only does I64 arguments, right? Because it's memory offsets. Where did we see the run-in worker thing? We don't see that anywhere. Ah. This is definitely where we see, yep, confirming that suspicion that run-in worker is going to create a background plugin versus a foreground plugin. Okay. Let's go look at this. See examples. This is the place where we see that. So here in interfaces, if we want to do allowed hosts, we also have requires the plugin to run in a worker using run in worker true. So these interfaces could be better. Let's look at that. All right, so we're going to pivot a bit because, yeah, we were able to make this work. We were able to make it blend. The file system thing is going to be the next part. And I wonder if we're running in a worker, is that why the file system part was no good too? Okay, and hold on. Let's check out this bug. Okay, so run-in worker is unstable. So that's a big part of that too. And yeah, let's pull down this SDK and fiddle with it a bit. I think that could be fun, right? Just like playing with the idea of what would making that type look better actually look like. How would we do that? And I think this could be good. So yeah, let's do that. CD repos, public. Yeah, we can just clone it here. We're gonna rename it though. Xdism, or let's just create a folder called Xdism. Okay. Interesting that they're using Playwright for this stuff. I would have thought that would be more for like browser-based stuff, but okay. All right, so then let's look at the file system. That way I can show you where I'm looking in here. We go to types. No, that's for Dino. We go to source. We see interfaces.ts. We see plugin config like. See plugin output. We see interface plugin. Okay. So what we're actually going to do is export type plugin. We're going to say this is plugin all, or plugin ambiguous. We'll do that for now. But instead, I want to extract these, and we're going to do a slightly different thing. We're going to have, instead of plugin ambiguous, we're going to have plugin base. So then here we're going to have plugin foreground and plugin background. And that also extends plugin base. So then the plugin here, this is actually just those. Plugin foreground, plugin background. So now it's a union of those things. Now plugin foreground here, Yeah, like function exists. We can get rid of, actually, hold on. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we don't care about that part. Call, get exports, etc. We don't care about that part. Oh, I'm doing it for the wrong thing. I wanted to do it for the plugin options. Oops. Yeah, all this goes away. Never mind. So this stays plugin. Yep, wrong thing. Plugin options is the thing that we want to create a union for. So this is going to be that plugin foreground options. Oh. This is base. Plugin background options. There we go. So then from here, we've got run in worker, true, logger. I think functions are now going to be only on the foreground. Okay, so then if we do something like that, we do this, run in worker. I thought that would autocomplete. It would just be true or false. Right, and then background options is run in worker has to be false. It has to be true. So then, yeah, xdism plugin options, we got rid of function there. So now if we go to maybe some of our examples. Oh, that's JavaScript code. Let's look at Dino maybe. Right, if we do run in worker true. Oh, typo. Right, that is now no longer a thing. Yes. Okay, awesome. I wonder if there is a way to give a better error there. Yeah, I'm curious about that. One other thing we can do is technically allowed hosts requires run in worker true. And I think fetch would also be there. So that would only go on the background here. Oh, what we could do here is, yeah, the way we're doing this part, I think we could actually define functions here as a never and give it an error, right? So then here, right, we do that, give it the same description still. I don't think example is what we're looking for. I don't know enough about how to do the annotations for things like this for TypeScript to actually like show it. That would be actually kind of a good learning experience too. To not run in a worker using run in worker false. Hold on, wrong place. So now if we go back to here, ooh, what do we have as an error? Oh, yeah, so we mess up a type there because of how we're doing this. And that might be why they haven't done this discriminated union thing yet. But that's where we can also do the never thing. Okay. Yeah, so this is me learning a bit about how to properly like annotate types for a better developer experience. So a list of allowed host names. You can make that a never. That fixes the type error below. And then over here, it's interesting that that's yelling at us. Hold on. Oh, functions is missing in type. Functions should be optional in both cases, right? Yep. There we go. So I missed that part. So then over here, sure, we get some other errors. Those are fine. That doesn't give us the error like I was hoping. Hmm. Yeah. What would be a better way to annotate that? Yeah, anyone out there feel like they're pretty good with TypeScript type hinting? Hmm. So there's a TS doc syntax. Okay. Let's look at the tags that are available. We see link. We see, what does override mean? Okay. So I don't think we care about that. What does remark mean? Okay, so maybe excuse me. Maybe I want to do something like this. Or never. So now it's on the base. And if we go back to here, so maybe never is the wrong thing. Yeah, I don't know of a better way of type hinting this. So hold on. What if we do something like this? Something. No. So remarks isn't good. Let's try that. Huh. So, yeah, I don't know what a lot of these actually do. But we can try it. Yeah, I don't think we can actually get anything in this output unless we could like reference that error. So where would we be able to maybe propose something here? So if we go to the GitHub for TSDoc, where could we propose this or create an issue? There's a lot of issues. So let's see if they actually have it. Just want to make sure this hasn't been already proposed. And let's do a minimal reproduction. It'd be nice if they had like a format for new issues, but let's just say like at error at error code to annotate, to provide context for improper, or provide context for errors, right? It would be nice to be able to inform users when they are when they encounter specific errors related to a property. Example. This would be interface base. This would be discriminator Boolean. And then, yeah, we can annotate this too. So then this would be interface union type A. And we would do foo is let's just say string or never. So then discriminator true, foo string, union type B, discriminator false, foo never. And then, yeah, basically, hold on, let me double check how we're annotating that. It's 2 stars and they do the space. All right. At error code uh, 2322. This property can only be set when discriminator is equal to true, right? Something like that. Bam. in this example, use case, hold on, let's go back to where we have this. In this example use case, we would like to inform the user that a property on a discriminated union can only be set when the discriminator matches the type. The current error is shown as type. And actually, we can just grab all of this. Const foo base, or not base, oops, and hold on. These need to extend base. Const foo. Oh, and we need to type discriminated union is equal to union type. Oop, if I could type A and union type B. So then here we would do const foo equals, oh, and let's do this, discriminated union. Discriminator is false. Foo, and this is getting a little gross. Let's say this is bar. Foo is blank. And whoops. So then here we see that currently shown as, and let's grab where that file was. And yeah, this is going to be my first, like, I don't know, I'd say this is my first attempt at like creating an RFC for a specification like this. Is it a good proposal so far? I don't know. But it was kind of a fun experiment just to, like, you know, have the thought. I'd actually really like to do this from my personal GitHub. That way it's easier for me to track. So let's do that. Hold on. Am I logged into that personal GitHub over on Firefox? I am not, but I can be. Okay, so let's just pull this over here. And let's do the same thing. So we'll just copy and paste all this over. Now, hold on. Let me double check this. Do they actually have some of these? I guess we got to go through all of the tags. You see alpha, beta, deprecated. Okay, so I don't think these get run, or like these use parentheses. We would have to do it with brackets, maybe. Yeah, okay. So the syntax would be slightly different. Okay, so we did that part. Let's grab all this. Make this a little bigger. And yeah, the way we do this then would have to be something more like this. And they call them tags, right? Hold on, let me double check this. Tags. Just submit new issue. Let's double check it. Let's look over it again, just to be sure. So interface-based, discriminator, Boolean, string, or never. Right here we see union type A, extends base, union type B, extends base. And this is where I would want to do error code, something, and then like, you know, the message that we would send the user. Right, and this is a very specific case for us, but I can imagine like all sorts of other cases where this would make sense. So I don't know. I'd say, what do we think? Is it a good issue? How do y'all feel about it? Lacko, no. How you doing, Lacko? What you up to? Okay, so yeah, stoked. Whether they add it or not, I don't know. Not sure if there's a relevant label I should add or anything. I do kind of want to tweet that though. Interesting idea. At error code. I don't think that's a person, right? I can't escape it. Let's try and condense this down a bit. And let's just do the screenshot. Let's do that. I think a screenshot's nice and easy. Let me find that image. And let me grab the link. I created an RFC issue for it on the TS doc repo. Not sure. What do you think? Screenshot of example usage. Please follow GitHub link for full text. Please follow GitHub link in tweet for full text. Tag people. Does TSDoc have an account? No. TypeScript. I don't know. Sure. I think that's a solid tweet. Since no one can see your likes, do I just like my own tweet? Is anything wrong with that? I haven't done it yet, but why not? All right, so we got this annotated. It was an interesting thought experiment about how we could maybe make this type better. And honestly, I think the type is still better by just like giving us an error inline. We just don't have a good way of explaining why it's an error. But I think it's better than letting it just fail and having the user have to go like look at it, right? Like see the error pop up and like guess at why it's not usable. I don't know. Worth thought. So yeah, and what time is it? 11:49. Let me double check what meetings I might have today. I know I have one a bit later. Yep. And yeah, I need to do some prep before that meeting. So yeah, we're not going to be able to push too much further. What do we think the action items are for continuing this? Possibly offline, possibly next week. The fact that we can do host functions is really cool. I think it does pose some interesting thoughts about how some of this stuff has to work. I wonder if, like, so XDism has to do that, like, run in worker thing for the JS SDK. Couldn't they maybe just spawn HTTP requests in a worker from the non-worker plugin? And workers can spawn workers too, right? Then it would be like really simple. Like if you're making an HTTP request, that happens in a worker no matter what. Your plugin, based upon what it needs to do, and maybe you not wanting to tie up the main thread in JavaScript, could run in a worker on its own anyway. And you're already doing I/O, like networking. Spinning up another worker is probably way faster than any HTTP request would be, right? Yeah, all right. So let's at least get to my notes. I like a lot of this. Another major thing I'm going to want to do is start building out the slides. So maybe that's something we do here on stream next week as well. Could be an option. Let's see. So our plugin API service area. This here might just be where we want to annotate the next steps. Start creating slides. Sure. Discuss actual plugin functionality with Eric, our CTO and the creator of GitLens, because I bet he would have some interesting ideas about like how we could expose certain functionality to plugins, how we could interact with them, etc. That would be cool. And yeah, before we even do more of that, figure out file system stuff. Could have just been related to run in worker, but I don't think that's the case, because we were also trying to do the file system stuff from the command line, and the command line wasn't working either, right? And that doesn't have to do anything with the JS SDK, right? So like over here, when we were doing xdism call greet, we were doing WASI, but that doesn't necessarily imply worker. The pathing thing was actually the tricky part. Oh, but we were doing that from the Go code, weren't we? Yes. So we were doing that over here from the Go code, which is fine. But yeah, we were getting like file does not exist stuff, right? And that doesn't have anything to do with the run in worker, because we're not running inside the JS SDK. So yeah, we got to figure out the file system stuff. So those are like the next big things I would want to do. Cool. I think another fun thing would be eventually, like, I've started a little bit on creating a slide presentation template for GitKraken, but actually working on some of that on stream, like after I've finished with the xdism experimentation stuff. That could be a good next project. But yeah, I think this is great. We've got some time, so let's do a little bit more chatting. For everyone that was just catching up with what we're doing here on stream, we are doing a promotion this week called DEVEXDAYS24, and it ends on August 25th. You can get up to 80% off of a year worth of GitKraken. Probably worth it. Like, that's basically free, isn't it? And when you think of GitKraken, you probably think it's just a GUI for Git. But you're also maybe not recognizing that we also maintain GitLens. We have a CLI tool. We have a website called gitkraken.dev. All of these services do Git stuff, for sure, but they also interact with some of our more like team features that we think make us an actual platform, right? Like unifying things that all of these different like apps and tools kind of use to make you more productive as devs. Things like Launchpad, where you can see all of your issues and PRs in one place instead of, if you have multiple repos you're working on, going from repo to repo. That can be really annoying, right? It also helps you see all of your issues and PRs in one place if maybe you have Jira for your ticket tracking, but you're using GitHub for your repo hosting, or any combination of Azure, Jira, all that stuff, right? Bitbucket, whatever. It's a really, really nice feature. It's actually, I think, my favorite feature, though the commit graph is another pro feature that we have in most of our surfaces that is like quite nice. So definitely some things to check out. Also Cloud Patches, a way of maybe making code review a little bit easier. Like, how annoying is it when you do code review and you have to like make a comment about something, but then in another file or maybe like 100 lines later, you see the same thing and you got to just make the same comment again. You could actually just propose the change if it's quick enough, right? Like renaming a variable or something. You could actually use Cloud Patches or Code Suggest to do so. So there's a lot of just collaboration features and solving developer pain points that we're actually pivoting to rather than just being a desktop Git GUI. So I think you should definitely check it out if you get a chance. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing these streams this week. This was really fun. Hopefully y'all enjoyed watching, possibly watching the VODs later, things like that. But yeah, I do need to go prep for this meeting that is happening in a half hour, and I will have to bid you farewell. So I'm going to be handing things off to Allison. And yeah, so Allison is doing an upload real quick. I can keep talking for a little bit. That's fine. And yeah, all right, so she's creating the scene, and it might autoplay as the scene gets created. Switch to the right camera for myself. All right, so the video's loading. Give it a sec.
Nice to see you
I'm
again.
curious which video this is going to be.
We're here with Kevin Bost. My name's Jeff Schnella. I work at GitKraken as a product director. I work on our sort of cloud services, dev services platform side of things, driving cloud content to the tools and products that we make here at GitKraken. And I'm joined by Kevin Bost. Kevin, why don't you take a few seconds, introduce yourself, and let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you. My name is Kevin Bost. I'm a senior software architect with a company out of Spokane, Washington called Intellitech. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and more importantly, a GitKraken ambassador.
Thanks for being here, Kevin. We're going to talk about a few different things: insights, engineering metrics, developer productivity, developer experience. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Just get some real-world input and your opinions, ideas, things that you experience in your day-to-day, and we can share that with the rest of everybody here at GitCon. So. It's been pretty popular, like the rise of engineering metrics, engineering productivity. You've got things like space, you've got like DORA metrics. There's a whole bunch of different, best practices, things that are out there, common metrics and methods we see across the gamut. And a lot of teams are using these to sort of fine tune and produce, outputs and outcomes that they want to see in their teams. Could you talk a little bit about, what you're familiar with, things that you might see in your day-to-day, the things that you and your team do, to try to leverage these types of metrics and engineering insights when you're working with your team?
Yeah, certainly. So I work with a variety of different teams, and so it's going to vary a little bit from team to team. But in a lot of them, we end up specifically looking at metrics as part of our daily stand-ups. Most of the time, we're doing some sort of Scrum or Scrum similar process. And at a minimum, checking things like test rates, failures, deployment frequency are kind of key metrics that oftentimes the teams are looking at. Just making sure that things are moving out, especially for some of the bigger projects. It's nice to be able to run your tests on every pull request, but you've always got a set of maybe integration or UI related tests that take a little bit longer to run, probably don't run on every PR, but you're running them on deploys out to your dev or test type environment to make sure your builds are good, and making sure that those insights are surfaced up to the team, let them know, hey, here's how it's going, or, yesterday's release, yeah, it tanked, everything's crashing and going down. We need to look at this right away. So those are oftentimes easy ones that we look at as well, and occasionally diving into more code related metrics, cyclomatic complexity at times, but it does depend a lot on the team.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of teams we've talked to have, it's kind of three goals in mind, right? They want to increase how fast or how, frequently developers are pushing code, committing code, getting code out there into the production environments. They want to make sure it's good quality. And then they also want to sort of measure and understand like how effective or how satisfied like developers' experiences are being, right? From what you mentioned, maybe you can speak to a little bit about it. Do you agree with that sort of sentiment? Is there more to it? Do you look for other things involved, or how do you find some of those outcomes or goals that you have in mind when you're looking at these metrics?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, shipping's a feature and every app has to have it. And so anything that can help us move from development all the way out to production. A big one for us that we see when we're looking to try to improve a team's kind of productivity is oftentimes looking at story size. And this one kind of comes out in a lot of those metrics around maybe merge rates or similar. If a story is taking a team an entire sprint to go through and actually get done and things aren't being broken down, you start to see that lag time increase. Deployments to productions take longer, merge rates take longer, PR reviews take longer. The entire step in that development process just kind of increases and moves out. It also can be an indicator of if testing isn't being done appropriately kind of mid-sprint. Rather than testing things rapidly as stuff is coming in, some teams prefer to do a bunch of work and then throw it over the fence at a QA team to say, hey, now go and test all of this kind of the following sprint. And all that ends up doing is kind of producing that lag time and increasing the feedback loop, which oftentimes the idea of trying to shift everything left, we want our feedback in quicker. We want developers to see that right away. So often looking at that merge rate, throughput, and deployment frequency are useful. But oftentimes those are sometimes symptoms of a problem, not necessarily the problem in and of itself. So kind of using those metrics as a guide to know where to look and figure out kind of where the problems lie.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And it actually leads to kind of something I was going to talk about, which is the risks maybe involved in focusing too heavily on metrics. And I know, you mentioned they are definitely indicators, right? They can be guides for the team, for you, for other developers to see, hey, we see that there's something happening. We just don't know where they are. And one of the caveats a lot of people are talking about, as soon as you make this metric the goal, it becomes a bad metric, right? Like as soon as you start to say, oh, well, the merge rate's going down, I know how I can fix the merge rate. I can merge more and just make smaller commits and do that whole thing. Well, that's not really helpful, right? So what are some things that you think are helpful or useful in balancing the observability of like these metrics, but balancing it out with not making the end goal the metric itself? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly on the point. Is the moment you make it a target rather than a goal, it becomes a problem. And so in a lot of cases, when we're working with teams, we try to focus on having the team have buy-in on what these are, understanding why it's better, and trying to help them move towards it. That's part of why we like to look at them as part of the stand-ups, is because if the teams have buy-in on understanding kind of the direction that we want to go of, hey, we are looking to improve our release frequency, right? How quickly are we actually releasing? In the last 6 months, have we done 1 release or 5? Well, if we've gone from 1 to 5, that's great. We're moving in a positive direction. There was one team we were working with that was only releasing about once a quarter, and started looking at different metrics, diving in to figure out where the problems were. And at the end, it came down to going back to that story size. Things were big. Oftentimes teams weren't merging things, but maybe once a sprint. And so working at bringing that down with the goal of looking at how often we're releasing to production and getting the team in that mindset of, hey, we want to get stuff in quicker, a lot faster, and start to work through those individual problems. At the end of the day, a lot of these metrics are measuring technical things, and a lot of problems are people things. And it's really hard to solve people type process problems with technical solutions. You can only kind of use them as a guide and a measurement. And the other one too is really focusing on the people behind it. Like oftentimes we'll go ahead and look at if maybe there's one particular developer that's not getting a lot of stuff merged through, that's not necessarily a negative on that developer, but it might be an indication that, hey, maybe there's something going on. Maybe we should have a conversation and see, hey, maybe there's something not even work related happening. And so using that as a way to be able to kind of pull that information in and be able to target that information can be really powerful as well.
Yeah, that sounds great, actually. And I mean, that focus on the individual, but like focus on the developer, that's something that sort of has thankfully been coming out of studies that people like Abhi Noda and the DevX movement, they've all been sort of looking at a lot of these notions of the developer experience and what it takes to avoid making the goal the metric itself, right? When we look at the individual dev, for example, I think a lot of what we see out there as far as the three pillars of DevX goes. There's the aspect of cognitive load, like helping the developer not find or not be overwhelmed by the amount of information or demand of things that have to juggle. The sort of increased frequency of like feedback loops, like you were saying, like getting information critical to them to increase the pace at which they're, understanding when there's an issue or when, something's being blocked. All of these things are really part of just kind of like that DevX spectrum. And I'm curious from your point of view, right, to help enable some of that stuff and things like flow state, like what are some processes or things you have in place that you and your team maybe do to, invest in that component, right? Invest in the person, invest in the individual dev to help them work faster, better, more efficiently.
Yeah. So a lot of it comes down to, one, we try to make sure that we paired all of our devs with a mentor. And this isn't necessarily a technical mentor, though oftentimes it can be in a lot of cases, but somebody who's kind of focused on the individual and making sure that they're feeling productive, they're feeling successful. And if not, being that advocate kind of alongside of them of, okay, what do you need? What would help you out here? Kind of at a higher level too, at the management, we also invest a lot in trying to make sure that we have good scrum masters and product owners on the team. I mean, those oftentimes are the unsung heroes where people think that they can get by without them. But oftentimes, whoever is filling kind of that product owner role can make or break your team very, very quickly. It doesn't matter how good your developers are. If they build the wrong thing, at the end of the day, it's worthless. So really trying to hone that in. And then on the Scrum Master side, oftentimes looking to make sure people are trained on being that shield. Because too often, especially when we're talking about like developer productivity, meetings and managers are, I think, one of the biggest inhibitors in a lot of cases of you almost got to beat them off with a stick of, no, let the developers work. They are not productive when you have them locked in a meeting. This is not useful. Now, obviously meetings are useful. Things need to happen. There's plenty of time for that. But if the developers constantly have that interrupted flow, I mean, there's been plenty of studies about how long it takes the developer to kind of get back into that coding mindset after their flow's been broken. And I know on some of our teams, this is an active problem that we're trying to work to resolve, of constant interruptions, constant meetings, and the devs being jerked around in too many directions, and frankly having a lot of trouble trying to get their traction started to get moving. So
yeah, that's a big challenge, right? Is just the interruption or the distraction, right? You might have some issue you're working on trying to resolve, and then fires come up, right? Or somebody reaches out on Slack and says, hey, can you look at this real quick? Or I have a quick question about our billing system, and then you're triaging something for 2.5 hours in, trying to figure out a bug that you didn't expect to work on. Those are all really good examples of how these distractions are just naturally coming up. So yeah, I think it's a challenge everybody's facing, trying to protect the attention of the developer so that they can focus on the things they need to build, and some of that happens through process, through workflows. Do you have any like tooling or things that the devs kind of extensions or actions, things that help with that cognitive flow state, helping them keep focused?
Yeah, so a lot of times, so our developers are able to kind of flow through various IDEs, tools. A lot of them are heavy Git cracking users, myself included. Obviously, it's definitely a tool of choice that I prefer to go through and do. Having the ability to go through and keep track of what code reviews need to happen, because there is a balancing act with our developers of making sure that in order to keep the merge rate high, that you're actually doing reviews. We typically will set a minimum number of reviewers for PRs just to make sure that we've gotten enough eyes, code sharing, make sure quality bars are being met, that kind of thing. And being able to figure out what's my work that I need to work on. I don't want the developers spending time going, well, what ticket do I pick up next? What PRs are open that might be still pending a review, right? If a PR is sitting there for multiple days, that's a problem. Like somebody should have had time in multiple days to be able to actually go through and get that kind of review in. And again, it kind of comes back to oftentimes we'll be looking at those metrics on the daily stand-up, and especially if we're seeing that our merge rate has plummeted, our scrum master hopefully slaps us and goes, hey guys, what's going on? Like, why aren't we getting, like, I see PRs are being opened, why aren't we actually like merging these and closing? Like, is there a bunch of discussion going on? Like, what's the actual team dynamic happening? And sometimes it's perfectly fine. People are on vacation. Hey, you know, we need somebody, this is blocked by that, whatever. But using those as the guide to know where to go next and where to look next, I think is kind of the most important to stay in that zone.
Yeah, that's one of the important questions that we've been exploring and trying to answer, right? And you know, we have things where we're building today to try to alleviate some of that with our developers, like the focus view, right? Focus view is sort of about, hey, here's everything that I'm trying to juggle right now, and what can we make sense of? What are the things that need my attention, and what are the things that, you know, are blocking other people that I work with, right? That kind of thing. And so, you know, we're trying to reduce that cognitive load by creating this system in place to help you understand, you know, what's most important based on time, based on what you actually want to pay attention to that day. You know, you can, you know, pin things, set them to the top, snooze them, move them around, to, you know, defer them to later. Like, all of those little sorts of productivity tools are super helpful. So it's good to hear you say some of that. You know, I'm happy to hear like you and your team are actually working towards improving the quality of life of your devs. Is there anything else you'd like to share with regards to that and, you know, the developer experience?
I mean, I think the last thing I'll comment on is just kind of looking for opportunities to shift stuff left so that we aren't being interrupted. One of the big ones was security vulnerabilities that was coming in and plaguing our team, because as soon as one comes up, it's obviously this high priority, somewhat disruptive. And things like how GitHub's advanced security kind of helps shift that into our development flow rather than it being something that a vulnerability scanner flags us for later. Just really kind of helps us get zeroed in and focused on it. So at the end of the day, it really is using the metrics to try to guide our decisions and hopefully see the direction where things are going. I will mention one other thing in terms of like testing is we will oftentimes use either number of tests or code coverage, which are those are the easy metrics people latch onto and try to measure to get something useful out of. And it really has to be a direction. I'll often tell people code coverage is a negative metric. You can have 100% coverage, and that doesn't tell me how well your code is tested. It just tells me that you haven't missed any lines. But if you have something that's uncovered, I can guarantee you it's not tested. So having people with kind of that understanding of, hey, we should be moving towards more tests, more coverage, making sure it's the right test, because sometimes just straight up deleting the test that's not adding value is the right answer. And it's okay to see those. It's okay to see metrics go in the quote unquote wrong direction, at least for some period of time, as long as it's understood why. Like, that's okay. And I think sometimes people get too focused on, well, we've got to be above a particular threshold. It's like, that's
Sure.
the wrong way. That's the wrong way of handling those types of data points.
So, Kevin, you mentioned the idea of shift left, and you know, that's kind of one of the things that we've been strong believers in here, looking at ways we can take the dev collaboration, the things that you know, are happening at the pull request level, and moving them to, you know, before the PR, right? It's important to kind of try to get that feedback about code ideas, things you're working on. So often, all of a sudden, the PR shows up, and you know, you have you know, 40, 50 comments of going back and forth and iteration on it, and a lot of this could be happening before you even get to the PR. So you know, with us, we're looking at, you know, trying to institute this idea of like cloud patches, which is this ability to share code before you make the PR, right? Like, this is, you could be working on a branch, you could even see someone's PR and make changes outside of that PR branch and share code, sort of collaborate on the idea before you get to the PR level. I'm curious your thoughts on, you know, the pull request as the centralized focus of attention, and, you know, do you see most collaboration for you and your team happening there? And is there anything that you and your team do, you know, to enhance, you know, the experience of not having to make the PR this hub, kind of shift left to your focus and the attention of the developer?
Yeah, I think it varies a lot from team to team, but there's definitely on the the better teams, there is definitely this shifting left mentality of being able to do it, because as you said, the PR tends to be that initial point of contact, and at some point that's too late, because by the time the PR is open, a developer's already invested some number of hours in getting to that point, and if they've gone down the wrong path, now there's this, well, shoot, we're throwing away all of this work. Some of my teams, we very much enjoy the idea of pair programming. So we will oftentimes do that just to eliminate that problem of, by the time you get to the PR is a formality, because we've already had multiple sets of eyes looking at it. We've already been collaborating together. It's easy to do. We may not pair on the whole thing. Maybe it's just some critical parts of a feature that we're working on that we'll go through and do as well. So leveraging various tools, maybe inside of like the Microsoft ecosystem with like the live share, to be able to go through and have that kind of collaborative editing. But definitely the idea of the cloud patches kind of excites me as a way of being able to move that information around, because all of the tools that have you both working on the same machine, unless you're both physically sitting at the same machine, there always is kind of this degradation of features that you end up picking up a little bit. And it's always nice when you can be able to collaborate on code and work with your system, your setup, your keybinds, your extensions in the environment you're familiar with, and go from there.
Yeah, I love that idea of making the PR an afterthought. That's super helpful. That'd be great if your PR is just, here's the checks, here's some basic comments, or looking at the files change. But if you've been working with another developer on that, but beforehand, you don't have to invest the time to review that PR that you would ahead of time, because it's lower risk, right? It's lower risk of having things that might break because that collaboration has been happening before. So that's a great example. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah,
absolutely.
And if you ever have anything more to add, I don't have anything more to add for our talk here today. Yeah, thanks so much for your time, Kevin. Appreciate you talking to us here at GitCon, and I look forward to seeing what you and your team are doing and pushing out there in the future.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate the opportunity.
Think of GitKraken Dev as your all-access pass to the GitKraken services that we offer. We created a place online for you and your team members to access things like workspaces, focus view, cloud patches, insights. We wanted to enable the accessibility of all of these services, regardless of whatever tool you may or may not be using or extension you might want to install. Even if you're not using GitKraken tools at all, you can still collaborate and work with your team in this space. For developers using GitKraken Dev, we're building a platform that's going to allow you to connect and manage your Git data across all of the GitKraken products. With this comes the ability to access things like the focus view right from the browser, and you can check the status of the most important items without having to install an application or an extension. Being browser-based will allow you and anyone on your team, regardless of how they choose to work with Git, access to these same features and services that improve the developer experience and your Git workflow. GitKraken.dev is in development as we speak. We're excited for you to dive in, explore, and help us shape its future. We really want this to be a tool that helps optimize the dev experience for you and your team, so please head on over for early access to GitKraken.dev, sign up, and join the waitlist. Thanks.